Swift and Tips podcast. I wanted to talk to you about two other projects that you are uh, hostling or managing. I because I mean you are being in a lot of things, right? So I had to pick just a few. Um, I saw last October you were developing a project for car maintenance, and you were
hmm
in like an hackathon.
hmm
um I have a few questions there. I mean, first off, is how did you get this idea, and second, how easy or hard is to handle this collaboration, because I saw that you started and then everyone, I mean, more people become active in the community, creating pull requests or so. And could you explain us a little bit the background of this project?
Yeah, so it was the hackathon is called Hacktoberfest. So it's kind of off of like Oktoberfest, kind of themed. So it happens the month of October. The whole goal of the entire thing, so it's across programming languages. It's not just an iOS thing. It's just pretty much anybody.
Hmm.
The whole goal is for people to contribute to an open source project. So for a lot of other things, it's like we use open source like software everywhere. Like a lot of the different Swift packages we all use, they're all open source, like SwiftLint, TCA, like all of that is open source. So what I did was make a repository for people to contribute to. And I really wanted to make it for beginners getting into iOS development or beginners like wanting to contribute for the very first time. Because if you're like me, when I started learning on my own, you learn iOS development, but you don't ever actually learn collaborating with other people. But then when you think about it, when you get into a job, that is exactly what you do is you collaborate with other people on a job and other developers. So that aspect is kind of missing when you're like self-learning. So I wanted to make a repository where beginners and pretty much people of any level can get involved in open source, but also just get involved in like work on a project with other developers. So as any good developer, how I got this idea was I stole it. um,
Hmm.
so this idea came from my friend Jay. He started making this and actually live streams on YouTube and Twitch as well under Hey J Codes. And so he started this whole project, had called it My Wheels, I think, and it was all about like car maintenance. He had like designed most of the UI and everything, and he ended up like dropping off that project a little bit instead of working on something else. And so when October came around, I was like, hey, can I take this project? Are you still working on it? Can I just like take your idea? And he was fine with it. So basically, I just called it basic car maintenance because I couldn't think of anything else. And I'm like, I want it to be a car maintenance app for people who kind of like don't like cars and don't know a ton about cars, which
Hmm.
is like somebody who I am. And I don't know. I would say that's probably the average car driver out of like other people who are super into cars.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
so for me, that was kind of like what I wanted to do with the app was somebody who's like not terribly technical with cars, but it's kind of just like tracking your different maintenance because when you go to sell your car, you have to know what happened to your car throughout the ownership.
Yeah.
And that was something like when I was going to sell my car, they were like, "Have you ever gotten into a crash?" And I'm like, I hit a deer one time. I don't know when that was." And like
What
how
is a
much it
crash?
cost and all sorts of stuff.
A
Yeah,
crash
so
in iOS? Just kidding.
so yeah, we had to like keep track of that kind of stuff. But basically, I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, can I steal your idea?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." He gave me all the code for everything of what he had done that to that point and all the UI designs. I took some of that, adapted it. But like that's sort of where the project kind of came from was I wanted to make an app that other people could contribute to where it's mainly for beginners to contribute to. So that kind of meant
Hmm.
as a maintainer, I wanted to have really good documentation. So like a very good README where you can like follow it step by step. This is how you open the project, how you add the like secrets file, and for that I ended up using Firebase also on the back end too for like all the database kind of stuff basically. But that's sort of where like the whole project came from, and then like more into how I've maintained it was kind of very chaotic. I had participated in Hacktoberfest previously, so for the past 2 years, I had a project called Brain Marks that actually started out of an actual like hackathon, like a
Hmm.
weekend hackathon that I met like did online with a couple other people. We started a project and then I open sourced it and made it for like the next 2 years over Hacktoberfest. For those 2 years, I had 20 people contribute to it over 2 years. So this brand new project that like started with just me Within 3 days, I had 10 people contribute to this.
Nice.
So the scale of like what was happening was like way more than I was expecting. So like three
I saw the
days there were
chart
10 people. Yeah, it just, yeah,
going up
I added a little
exponentially.
star chart. Yeah, and it just kept going up and up. And it was funny. I could tell like the spikes for some things were just when I mentioned it on social media, because I mentioned it really early. So it's the whole hackathon was in October. I started mentioning it and was working on it in August because I was gone, like away from home all of September. So I was like trying to finish the basis of the project, and I tried to make a very, very minimal 1.0 for everybody to build off of, because you can work on projects where everybody is like brand new and you're doing like, here is the 1.0, every brand new
Hmm.
feature. But I think for beginners and just kind of in any other project in general, it's really hard when you're contributing like on top of something that's like a hello world project, because like everybody's adding new files, like every kind of, you don't have any conventions for how everything's going to work. So I think that's like very difficult. So I tried to make a super minimal MVP that people then could start contributing on top of that, so
Hmm.
that I think makes it easier. So like you at least, the app at least does something, so it's not just the hello world when you run it for the very first time.
Hmm.
So when I went to go into Oktoberfest, I made a bunch of new issues. Like I made like 20 issues, and they were all taken in like 2 days, and it was just, that was absolutely wild. So then I had to
Wow.
keep writing more issues. But what I did was, when I started, I like actively didn't do error handling when I made that v1.0. So like I would just have try question mark, and that was it. So then I would make an issue that says handle this error, because this can totally throw an error. Make like the do catch statement and handle what would happen if this statement threw an error. And
Hmm.
that is a very good scoped issue for any kind of beginner to get into a project at first, because first you can see what's supposed to happen, and then also, okay, if this threw an error, figuring out how do you write the do catch, how do you handle the error, what are you catching, are you showing it to the user? Like all of those things are very specific, and what's really good about it for a Hacktoberfest project too is it's all very scoped as well. So like you're only touching that one small piece of code, and I wasn't making any dramatic features where somebody would end up changing like every
Hmm.
single file, because if you have a lot of people contributing to a code base, that's just like merge conflicts everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So yeah.
So, no, no, go ahead.
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing the chart. Actually, in post production, I will add more context about this project. But yeah, it looks like a lot of work in just a short period of time, and I'm glad to see that how reactive the community is, or proactive, I will say, to this kind of thing. So when you are just doing something great, um, or you want to share, hey, I'm doing an app, and more people wanted to help, right, and learn at
Mm-hmm.
the same time. Because I think it, if someone is hearing and they wanted to actually learn something, is by doing things.
Yes.
Okay, and one of the things is, okay, putting the hands on a real app, not just a tutorial app, a real app. And one of
Mm-hmm.
those is like collaborating with people in things, because who knows, maybe later this will be in one of the top 5 of a app store. Who knows? By the way, it is already published or not yet?
I'm working on it. So
Okay. Okay.
the last thing I have to do is I'm implementing monetization within it. So adding a
Mm,
paywall and
okay.
all the in-app purchase kind of stuff. So that is like, it's kind of something only I can sort of do, because I have access to like the secrets and everything. And then I'll
Hmm.
have to figure out how it's gonna work with like it all being open source. But I am working on publishing it. The goal was to do that last weekend. Actually, the goal was to do that by the end of 2023, and then that didn't happen. So then the
Hmm.
goal was to do it the first week of January, and then that didn't happen. So the goal was to do it last weekend, which still didn't happen. So the new goal now is probably this weekend or end of January. But yeah, it's my big thing is I do really want to get this app published, because it is something that like somebody can totally write on their resume of, hey, I contributed to this project, this
Yeah.
was the issue that I worked on. And I have in the app like a contributors list, so you can see like who's contributed to this project. Tap on
Mhm.
that row, and then you see a list of all the GitHub contributors because it just pulls from the public like GitHub API.
Mhm.
So like you can actually end up seeing, once I finally publish it, is like here is the list of everybody who's contributed to the app, and then if you're one of them, you can end up like showing that in like an actual interview. I mean, like,
Mhm.
look, this is my name, like this is my GitHub account,
Yeah.
and be like, this is the feature that I contributed in this app, which I think is really like fun to really like tangibly finally see. Here is something that I did, because like iOS development, it's something where we do have to pay $100 a year to have an app on the App Store, and if
Mhm.
you're not able to do that, it's like you can then work on this project and then end up having part of your like part of the work that you've done be inside of a real app as well that's like on the App Store too.
Mhm. Yeah, I that's great also, to hear that you can actually have a proof of, hey, I'm doing something in real life. I'm contributing and also learning from others. When I'm hiring people in my job, I'm always trying to see, okay, how is your contribution with others? And when I'm seeing people that are actually contributing, collaborating in GitHub, in in large projects, it's like, okay, should you tell me more? And then, yeah, you clearly can differentiate people from people that doesn't uh, collaborate
Mm-hmm.
at all, and experience that the collaboration uh, provides you once you start doing it. And you don't have to like, because most people think that they need to do the greatest collaboration of all the time to actually worth the work. No, I mean, maybe a typo, fixing a typo in a documentation could be enough for you just to pair it there. And then you can,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, step by step escalate that until at some point that you're actually contributing with more things like testing or actual features of that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that I
Yeah.
really like that.